Hello, fantasy enthusiasts. I'm Ryan D. Meier, back with another episode of Discover New Worlds presented by World Hoppers Guild. I'm really happy to bring you my first video interview guest, Paul PD Alleva. We have a lot of fun on this one. It's one you won't forget. I try my hand at hypnotizing Paul, and the results are as horrific as you'd imagine. So check it out and enjoy. Hi, Paul. Thanks so much for joining us today, everybody. I'll give an introduction for PD Alleva. He is wait for it, an alternative fiction author, as he likes to coin. I would list all of the genres, but he's a well-versed writer who writes with a lot of different creativity ideas. So we'll refer to him as an alternative fiction writer. How does that sit with you as an intro, Paul?
I love it. I love it. Alternative fiction. I'm a grunge kid, so 90s kid. Alternative fiction. I like it.
Absolutely.
I was going to say grunge fiction, but I thought that was maybe a little bit too far of a stretch. The alternative, right?
Might be. You got to keep the younger kids involved. You know, that's what it's still the alternative scene. So you got to make sure the grunge that's you and I, you know, it's all alternative now.
Yes, exactly.
So, we joke about the alternative fiction genre, but why don't you just give us a little bit of rundown about a few of the works that you have published already?
Yes, perfect. All right. So my name is PD Alleva, or Paul Alleva, and I write alternative fiction. What is alternative fiction? All right. So alternative fiction is like multi-genre. All right. But I don't like using the term multi-genre. So it feels like I have marbles in my mouth. Right. So I like to mix genres up, hence alternative fiction. Sci-fi, fantasy, thrillers, dystopian, horror, psychological horror, cosmic grindhouse, dark fiction, thrillers. Those are the types of books that I love to read, and those are the types of books that I love to write. So my newest book, right, is a new series. It's sci-fi, it's fantasy, dystopian, it's action adventure, and it's definitely 100% a thriller. And that is called The Rose, Volume 1. All right, and that is about a species of alien vampires living in Hollow Earth who are attempting to subjugate the human population after World War III. That's the dystopian. And they've conspired with elite human beings and gray aliens in order to pull this off. The way they're doing it is they're giving us a pharmaceutical that destroys gray matter in the brain. And that pharmaceutical, the base operation, the base chemistry is an opiate. So what happens is when this new drug comes out, they're giving it to the human beings, you know, pretty much like chemical, lobotomy there. This drug, these alien vampires are now getting high off this drug and kind of turning a little bit monstrous in the too. So, and that's Volume 1. Volume 1 is already out. Volume 2 is coming out December, right? So probably early December. And then I have a psychological horror coming out. That is called Golem. And Golem, I took the old Jewish folklore and mythology behind Golem, but I kind of put my own twist on it. So Golem in this book comes from the far reaches of the universe, a demonic place called Shabalba. The mind's referred to as hell. In order to get here, it needs to be invited, and it gets here through the mind and eyes of human beings. And this takes place in the 40s and 50s and follows a unsuspecting new district attorney who needs to find the DA's missing daughter. And as he goes to find the missing daughter, his only lead is a high society sculptor named Alina Francone, who's been committed to Bellevue Psychiatric Hospital for the past 7 months. And when he gets here, she tells him the story of Gollum, how she incarnated this demon into a statue she created. And he is wreaking havoc on New York and every part of its infrastructure. That's Gollum. All right, what else? Another one. So it's kind of like a supernatural thriller. It's called Girl on a Mission, and it's a novella series. That's going to come out so Gollum in October, Girl on a Mission in November, Rose Volume 2 in December, so a couple coming out. And Girl on a Mission takes place in the 90s, murder, mayhem, and grunge, right? So, and it's about Elijah's world, right? I love it.
What's the setting?
1990s Brooklyn, starts February 1991, right? So and what happens is she's had leukemia and she had a near-death experience. And when she woke up, from this near-death experience, she discovered it's called the click. That's what she refers to. And what she does is all she has to do is look into someone's eyes and the click happens. And whatever she tells them to do, they're going to do. All right. But what happens, a few mishaps happen, and Liza winds up taking a job as a hitman for the New York Mafia. All right. And then it'll follow her exploits over probably about 6 different installments.
That's cool. So you seem to write a good mix of longer fiction. And now is novella a fairly new thing for you? Or have you been doing that?
I have been doing that. A couple of my other books are novellas, right? So Presenting the Marriage of Kellyanne and Jerry Denimer, that would be a novella, all right? And that is a dark fiction, dark fantasy, inspirational novel about a alcoholic and very famous prominent actor who's down on his luck, decides to commit suicide. And what happens is a voice in his smart TV thwarts his suicide, pulls him into the TV into an alternate dimension where he has to relive his past memories in order to overcome them. At the same time, this is where it gets metaphysical, there is a protest happening in LA over a terrorist prisoner. All right, so there's a connection between the terrorist prisoner and Jerry's suicide that, no spoiler alerts here, kind of get connected at the end. All right, so that's Presenting the Marriage of Kellyanne and Jerry Denimer. And then I wrote Knickerbocker. So Knickerbocker is a novelette, novella in my book, Twisted Tales of Deceit, which has a couple different short stories in it too. But Knickerbocker is a reimagining of the legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Very good.
So I grew up in New York.
Tarrytown, New York.
Tarrytown, I lived in Tarrytown, had a great time in Tarrytown, loved it. Been to Washington Irving's house like on a gazillion school trips, you know? So I wanted to do a reimagining, and what happened is with the reimagining is it's modern day, but I made all the characters are recovering drug addicts, and they're all employed as teachers at the prestigious Sleepy Hollow School.
Oh, all right. So no spoilers here either, but there's a little bump in that road for the normal Sleepy Hollow story, right? So that's very good. So now Sleepy Hollow, right? So we talk about, you know, I think inspiration for some of your works is going to be pretty fascinating to hear about, because you seem to be touching on so many different, and like you said, it's things that you like to read, right? That's, I think, what all of us, you know, at some point deep down, we write for ourselves as much as we might have stories to tell for other people in different audiences, right? We write for ourselves. So I hear you. So Sleepy Hollow and your where you grew up living near there, that was a big inspiration for that. What are some other things that you've picked up that have influenced your work?
All right, so I've been writing since I was a kid, right? Wrote my first short story that I remember about a hamster that turns into a monster in 2nd grade. Wrote my first full-length fantasy novel at 12 years old. So I have a love for literature. So I've gone through like waves. I consider it waves of literature. You know, when you're growing up, what are you reading? Ray Bradbury. All right, he was the man. Love Ray Bradbury, especially Something Wicked This Way Comes. All right, that was one of my favorite books. So Ray Bradbury, obviously Edgar Allan Poe.
Sure.
You know, huge. Keep going. And then I had a classic literature phase. So think Emily Bronte, right? Wuthering Heights. Frankenstein is still my all-time favorite novel. It's all time, right? Dracula, picture of Dorian Gray. Keep going to the Pulp Fiction era. I was actually, when I was growing up, my dad had boxes, right, of Pulp Fiction magazines that I had gotten into. And it was like,
that is cool.
You know? So I wish he had kept them too, because that would be absolutely awesome to have at this moment. You know, we're talking like 30 years ago at this point.
Yeah,
but Pulp Fiction magazines were huge, you know, huge influence at that time. And then growing up, even I went into an Ernest Hemingway phase, F. Scott Fitzgerald, you know.
I've read a lot of Hemingway myself. Yeah.
Yes. My family used to call me Hemingway, right? So I loved Ernest Hemingway. I loved his work, and I loved the man. You know, he's like the last author to be a true celebrity, like a celebrity, you know?
Yeah.
And back then, you know, there were movie stars and stuff like that, but even in the 20s, you know, that's where this silent era movie started coming out. authors were that famous person. You know, they were those famous
Yes.
celebrities. He was that. I mean, he embodied it, and he loved taking that role on. You know, so yeah, they used to call me Hemingway. So I had that phase. Even went into a nonfiction phase when I got into like metaphysics and quantum physics and stuff like that, and that was definitely interesting. You know,
Yeah.
and
Well,
then
that'll fuel your sci-fi a whole bunch, I bet.
yes,
Some of that nonfiction.
100%. And then let's say, obviously, it was always horror. You know, Stephen King, especially early Stephen King, the man.
Sure.
Still think
Salem's Lot is my favorite out of those books.
Salem,
Yeah.
incredible novel, so scary too.
Yeah.
You know?
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. I still feel that The Shining is a masterpiece. I consider it a masterpiece. I mean, yeah, it's a masterpiece. Pet Sematary, I just go down the line. Clive Barker, you know, then of course Anne Rice got into the whole interview with the vampires.
Sure.
There's so many, you know, there's so many great stories. A huge influence actually on the Rose was I Am Legend, Richard Matheson.
You know, that's a really underrated book. And I know the movie stole a lot of the thunder because Will Smith was great in it. And I thought they did a really great job on the movie, but that book is spectacular. Yes. So anybody who has not read I Am Legend, pick that up. It's a short read, so it's not even heavy work. That's a great recommendation.
Yeah, it's definitely a good one. I love the Will Smith movie. I didn't like the end because it was different, you know.
Sure, yeah.
Did you ever see the Vincent Price version?
No.
The Last Man on Earth. That's what it's called.
Okay.
It's that book in a nutshell. You know, everything in that book is in that movie.
That's funny.
Definitely worth checking out. You know, I love Vincent Price too. You know, that voice is just everything. You know. But yeah, definitely. That's definitely a good one to watch. I will say that. It's a good weekend, little probably an hour and a half type of movie. So definitely a good one.
Yeah, for sure. And now I'll just touch on Stephen King before we skip on, because he was a big influence for me growing up. I read, and probably just due to my father was a huge, and still is a huge Stephen King fan, and he reads everything. So I got, you know, every time he read a Stephen King book, he passed it my way. Now, I always ask when I run into a King reader, your thoughts on the Dark Tower series, which is obviously a departure from what he usually writes, you know, delving into this epic adventure thing. Thoughts on that? Or
all right, so yes, I mean, don't get me wrong, I definitely enjoyed the books, but I like him staying where he's at with the horror. Yeah, that's all. It is a departation, but you know what? It's, as a writer, I definitely understand his need of wanting to go and explore that other genre, you know, and he's great at it. But I just like him as the horror, and I think the best book I've actually read by him in a long time was The Institute, which came out, I think, about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it was kind of like a return to classic Stephen King, you know, because The Outsider is like, it's all right. You know, it seemed more cookie cutter, you know.
I thought the same, yeah.
Yeah. I actually loved Revival.
Okay. I didn't read that.
Yeah, Revival was kind of like a take on a weird way on like Frankenstein, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, it was definitely good. I enjoyed that one. But The Institute, yeah, definitely, I dug that one. I think he got back to his roots. But then I got If It Bleeds, and I wasn't too impressed with that one. Did you read If It Bleeds?
No, I've missed out on several of his recent ones. And I'm sure you can relate. My to-be read list is just grown seismically. So yeah, unfortunately, I haven't read any of those. But you know, to hear that it's gone back to a little bit of the old Stephen King that's a good thing. I think his strength was in his core, you know, the 80s and the 90s, the writing that he did then. Agreed. For sure.
100% agree. And then recently, like new authors, V.E. Schwab.
Okay.
I enjoy reading V.E. Schwab, especially she has it's extraordinary villain series. So first book is villains, then it's vicious, or maybe vice versa.
Okay.
But no, vicious and vengeful. That's what it is. Those books are phenomenal, and it's about a bunch of kids in college who have near-death experience. They pretty much kill each other, right? And when they come back, they have these superpowers that are based on the thought process they had as they were dying.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a good one. Two good books, and the sequel was damn good. You know what? Writing a sequel is very hard, as I just discovered writing volume 2. Although absolutely so satisfying, it's unbelievable. Which is important to me, and I'm an Empire Strikes Back, Godfather type Part 2 type of guy. You know,
Sure.
I
Yeah.
love the sequels. You know, so the sequel to me's got to be just as good, if not better, than the original. You know, that's what you got to strive for. And her sequel in that series was really damn good. I was impressed. And I just finished The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and that was
Okay.
really good too. All right, and that is about a girl who makes a deal with the devil, right? And her curse with making this deal is that nobody ever remembers who she is. All right, and then
Even
fast
family,
forward,
I'm assuming, everybody, right?
everybody forgets her. Within, if you meet her and you talk to her, as soon as she walks away, you'll forget who she was. All right, so 300 years after she takes the deal with the devil, she meets a kid who actually remembers her. And then it kind of goes from there. And I was impressed. It was definitely a good read. And then, let's see, Blake Crouch. Have you read any Blake Crouch?
No.
All right. Do yourself a favor, pick up Dark Matter and Recursion. All right,
Okay.
sci-fi type of books. All right, so Dark Matter is about parallel universes.
Okay.
All right, so it's about this guy who gets abducted and he winds up figures out that he actually, this is not a spoiler, you don't have to worry about it, he abducted himself because he was in a parallel universe, and then he's trying to get back to his family in his parallel universe, or in his universe that is his. Phenomenal book. And then Recursion.
Yeah.
Recursion is about time travel, right? And I love the time travel concept. You know, I'll get more into this in a second. So I read the book, and the time travel concept is a memory, right? So the person that created this machine, and what it is the person goes into this machine and they have a specific memory, right? So when they inject this substance into the brain, and as the person's thinking about the memory, they're there in that time, right?
Okay.
So, and the movie, it just keeps going. It's like watching a movie. It's phenomenal what happens in this book. Absolutely phenomenal. But, all right, so the time travel concept. I was on Goodreads, right? And whatever, it was probably a promoter said Blake Crouch is going to answer questions, right? So I'm following him. So
Sure.
do you want to ask a question? So I had a question. So there is a time travel novel by author Jack Finney called Time and Again.
Okay.
Right. So in Time and Again, it takes place, it's in New York, and the guy travels back in time about 100 years into the 1800s in New York City. And the way they do that is through hypnosis.
Interesting.
All right. Very interesting. So my question to Blake Crouch was, did he ever read that novel? And was that novel an inspiration for how he did time travel in Recursion? And the answer is yes.
There you go. I wonder how impressed he was that somebody who had read his books was able to identify that.
Right.
That's pretty awesome.
Well, we're both writers, right? So they kind of think alike.
It's true. And the level of creativity out there can be mind-blowing. Especially when you deal with, I know a lot of the conversations about tropes is like, tropes are bad, you want to stay away from tropes, but I take the other approach, which is there are tropes in every great story in one way, shape, or form. And I've always found people who can do the time travel thing really impressive, because there's so many possible plot holes to that, that when somebody does it well, it's to be commended. So yeah, that's a great recommendation for sure.
Agreed.
So Paul, I do some internet stalking, right? So I'm internet stalking you a little bit. We talk a little bit before we set it up. And I found it absolutely fascinating that professionally you do hypnosis and psychoanalytics, correct? I mean, is this accurate?
Yes, 100%. I've been a hypnotist for about 15 years.
Okay.
All right. So my wife and I have a private practice for the past 10 years, and we specialize in trauma, PTSD, grief and loss, addiction. things like that.
And I would imagine it's like a lifetime of learning sort of thing, right? Like you're constantly improving, and it's a science, I'm sure, right? And so, yeah, I kind of find out the hard way, right? Because I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to have a hypnotist on the show. It's something I've always been interested in. So I did some internet research. Now, granted, it's the internet, but come on, I'm going to find a reliable site out there that can teach me to hypnotize people. So I was hoping
it must be true, right?
I was hoping, since you've joined the show so graciously, you'd be willing to let me put you under some hypnosis.
You want me to allow you to put me under hypnosis?
Hold on. I have been studying, and I'm going to put you under hypnosis. How's that sound?
Interesting. I think that sounds good. You might get a character that pops out, though.
Well, that's part of my hypothesis, is that writers are, I mean, listen, we're a little, maybe the screw or 2 or 5 loose. So we're going to do some deep dive in here and learn something about you today, Paul. So give me a second. I got to get ready for the hypnosis here. So
okay,
we need to do.
Nice. On the glasses, huh?
All right.
There you go. Looking spiffy. I like it.
Well, I can't come unprepared,
And the beard is perfect. I like it.
Well, Paul, once I get you, I'll let you know on this. Once I get you under hypnosis, I'm going to make you tell everybody that I have a better beard than you, though. We're gonna get that ironed out right away, right after we get working here. So okay, so we are going to go back to Sleepy Hollow, Paul. Okay, it's nice and peaceful and sleepy, and we're going to get sleepier and sleepier, and you're going to relax and slowly fall into yourself. Are you still with me, Paul?
Yes.
Excellent. We're going to take a little walk through your subconscious. When I clap twice, you can come back to life. Paul, I want you to reach down deep inside and find that character that's clawing to come out. Do not let it rip through your stomach like an alien. Let it flow through the hypnosis.
How are you today?
I'm very good. Who am I speaking with?
My name is Jiggly Spot.
I'm sorry, Jiggly what?
Jiggly Spot.
Oh, very good. Jiggly Spot. Excellent. Thank you so much for coming to see us today. Is there something that you've been wanting to talk to Paul about, or to tell Paul? I can help with that.
Yes. Tell Paul to release my book.
Oh,
okay. It needs to get out as soon as possible.
Oh, well, no, yeah, that's a pretty serious thing. We can't keep you hidden inside like this. I will tell you, we're talking to an audience, so I know Paul has been repressing you and keeping you from reaching this world. Maybe you can come and share a little bit of yourself prior to Paul finally uncaging you.
Okay, so Jiggly Spot has had a little bit of trouble lately. This Jiggly Spot is in charge of creating the summer solstice cannibal celebration for the demons of Shaboba.
Oh, sounds very important.
Yes, it is very important. And what happened is Mr. He'll only be referred to as Mr. E, has recently been mm, what is the word? Imprisoned.
Mm.
And he cannot perform the summer solstice duty. So it comes on me. Emmanuel has contacted me from Shiboba, and I must get the summer solstice celebration, which means I need people, and I need to travel across the country to gather people for them to eat during the celebration. Which means I also need to hire a chef of French cuisine.
Oof, French in particular.
French, yes. Emmanuel loves French. It must be French.
Oh, that's excellent. Very good. Now, where is exactly this dinner party taking place?
It'll take place at the Cannibal Cafe in California.
Oh, okay, good. So in California, though, not on the East Coast anywhere.
No, but I'm currently in New York
Oh,
and we'll be traveling there. My means of travel, I wish not to say, since you have guests.
no guests. Now, very good. Is there something maybe the people and I should know about where you come from?
Well, I'm half human, but I'm also half warlock.
Mm.
I was orphaned as a baby, and I was taken up, and my family is a race of killer clowns from outer space who raised me as their own. That is why I work at a traveling carnival and I dress up as a clown.
It's part of the family makeup, I suppose. Yes.
Exactly. It's all about the makeup.
All right. That is horrifying. When, so I know you say Paul has been repressing you. Do you have a plan on escape? Is this something that you've considered?
Well, when Paul goes to sleep at night, we come out and he does not know it. So as far as Paul knows, we are still in. But as far as we know, we are Paul. So as soon as he sleeps, we come out. That's why he has a rash in the places that he doesn't want to have a rash.
Jiggly spot news. That certainly doesn't sound like that's your fault.
No,
not at all. You're not to be blamed for sure. And I would love, I have a few French acquaintances that I don't know, maybe they might be interested as well. I can send them your way, when we're done.
High paying position.
But wonderful, very good. Yes, very rewarding, I'm sure.
One night of cooking humans earns you $10 million.
Okay. What if there's no experience? You're not looking for a green chef, are you, by any chance?
No, definitely.
Okay.
We need what we need, experience.
Okay. Well, very good. I wish you, Jiggly Spot, the best of luck on your release. And I will make sure to stay far, far away from California's Cannibal Cafe for sure.
Very nice. Thank you for having me.
Yes, no problem. Jiggly Spot, if I could just kindly ask you to return to your abyss inside of Paul. And once you seem like maybe you're gone, I'll fill him in and make sure to tell him you said hello.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Fall back into yourself, Jiggly Spot. Go back away until the release.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Paul.
What did I do?
I think the internet just blinked out on us a little bit. I don't really know what happened there.
Gotcha. I was excited to see who won the beard war,
you may not, we already had a vote. When the internet went out, we polled everybody. Listen, it's a home crowd sort of thing. So don't take it too personal, but the winner was clear, obviously.
It was fixed.
It worked. Oh, we have no shame about that here. It was fixed. So, Paul, thanks for being a great sport. Why don't we? So we just talked a little bit briefly about your upcoming release. Why don't you? Is there anything else you'd like to say about that upcoming release, or something else that you have on the horizon?
Okay, so it's the title is Jiggly Spot and the Zero Intellect. All right.
Okay.
So, and this was written during quarantine, COVID quarantine. Over 150,000 words. Took me over 7 months to write it. And exactly what we're talking about. So Jiggly Spot is a 4'9", half human, half warlock, who was abandoned as a baby, raised by killer clowns from outer space. And he is employed in a traveling carnival where he's the drug dealer there. He dresses up as a clown, and he's also a mass murderer, all right? And he's also a lackey for Emmanuel, who is a demon from Shibolba. Yep. And he's tasked with the summer solstice cannibal celebration in California. After Mystery, you got to read the novel to get that one. After Mystery has pretty much been arrested, and it falls on him, and he's got to get this celebration pulled off. If not, well, you don't want a demon to be pissed off at you, put it that way.
No, definitely not. I don't even think I want Jiggly Spot pissed off at me.
Definitely not. And he loves the scalpel. The scalpel.
Oh, that's brutal. I can't even say that I dislike clowns, right? I'm not really scared of them, but the fact that he was raised by clowns, that is a little too far for me. Right. That's just, I'd rather somebody be raised by wolves. And no offense to the clown families out there, but come on, let's be real about this.
Fact. My older brother hates clowns, which is part of the reason why I made him into a clown, So Jiggly Spot and Zero Intellect. I had so much fun writing that book, and those characters were just screwing with me the whole time. It's like I would have to stop for like a couple of days because all of a sudden the story would take this drastic turn, and I have no idea where the hell it was going. Then the answer would pop in my head, and it would just say the same thing. Jiggly Spot, you asshole, you got me again. It's like he just jumped off the page, and he wanted the story to go to a certain level, and it was very satisfying. And when I was writing the ending, I had this like sad, bittersweet feeling writing the ending to this novel. And at first I was like, no, I don't like it. And then all of a sudden, boom, it just twisted like that. And I said, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I love the way it ended. And that's Jiggly Spot. Right? That's what Jiggly Spot does. So get ready for Jiggly Spot, but that's coming out probably, I would say, sometime in 2022. But there'll be beta reading opportunities probably by within the end of the year. So you got to sign up for my mailing list in order to get that beta reading opportunity at pdalleva.com. Little plug there. I got throw in the plug, right?
You gotta, yeah, absolutely. And what I'll do, everybody, hang out. We're wrapping this up, and I'll make sure I get all of Paul's stuff up. Sign up for the mailing list. Keep in touch with him. Check out what he's got. This has been a lot of fun. Is there any last words for our audience?
Hey, no, just hey, love life. And that's what you got to do, right? That is a definite fact. Love life and read a shit ton of books. And read my books, or I'm sending Jiggly after you. What about it?
And for those who missed it, that guy's raised by clowns.
That's right. The killer clowns. Funny. And it's satirical, 100% satirical. Nobody's off limits in that book. That's a fact. It is satirical, cosmic grindhouse horror.
That sounds a lot like alternative fiction.
That is definitely alternative fiction, 100%.
All right, Paul, it's been a blast, man.
Yeah, it has. Thank you for having me. Good time.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
I hope you guys had as much fun with that as I did. I'll go ahead and leave Paul's links on the screen, and I implore you to check them out. Unless, of course, you're scared of clowns. In that case, you've probably already stopped watching. I'll be back with another interview next week, this time with science fiction author Adam Gaffin. And please take a moment to subscribe to the channel below. Sign up for our newsletter on worldhoppersguild.com. And go ahead, keep discovering new worlds. Have a great night.